Hello, and welcome back to the Military Matrix. Tonight we are tracking what analysts are calling one of the deepest, most consequential Ukrainian strikes ever carried out inside Russian territory. A strike that has reportedly disrupted a massive stockpile of an estimated 5 million Russian artillery shells, sending shockwaves all the way to the Kremlin. This unprecedented 100-mile penetration is not merely symbolic. It represents a strategic rupture in Russia's war machine, a move that has stunned military observers and left President Vladimir Putin scrambling to understand how Ukrainian forces managed to bypass layers of Russian air defenses, considered virtually impenetrable. What happened here is not a simple strike. It is a structural blow to the Russian war effort. The attack took place in a remote yet critical region that had operated as one of Russia's largest storage and transit hubs for long-range artillery ammunition. Western intelligence has long believed that Russia stored millions of shells in deeply fortified warehouses there. Stockpiles intended to supply operations across Crimea, the Donbas, Belgorod, and the southern front. But until now, the hub was considered well out of reach of Ukrainian missiles, drones, or sabotage teams. This strike challenges that belief entirely. According to early satellite assessments, the Ukrainian operation appears to have involved a combination of deep-range drones, precise reconnaissance, and strategic timing designed to coincide with a shift change at the facility. Several analysts believe this was timed specifically to limit casualties while maximizing material destruction, a hallmark of Ukrainian precision targeting. Russian emergency services have reportedly evacuated several nearby towns due to the scale of the explosion, which lit up the night sky for hours and triggered secondary detonations, powerful enough to be detected by sensors as far as Kazakhstan. The real shock, however, comes not from the explosion itself, but from what it implies. If Ukraine can strike 100 miles into Russia, it raises questions about the vulnerability of Russia's interior logistics network, a network that Russia relies on to transport ammunition from factories to front lines. Traditionally, Moscow believed distance was its shield. Now, that assumption has collapsed. Ukrainian military officials have not revealed the exact system used in the strike, but many experts suspect a next-generation long-range drone modified for extreme endurance, powered by satellite-based navigation, and capable of bypassing electronic warfare systems that Russia uses near strategic sites. Russian state media struggled to contain the narrative, with conflicting reports emerging throughout the day. Some outlets claimed a minor drone incident, while others admitted to a major warehouse fire. Independent footage posted online, however, shows plumes of smoke rising thousands of feet into the air, accompanied by flashes consistent with ammunition cooking off. The intensity of secondary explosions suggests that the site was indeed storing millions of shells. If the estimate of 5 million is accurate, this is one of the largest ammunition losses Russia has suffered since the beginning of the war, equivalent to several months of sustained shelling across multiple fronts. This development is particularly significant given Russia's recent push to increase artillery production. Moscow has relied heavily on North Korean and Iranian munitions to fill gaps in its supply, but those deliveries alone could not meet demand. This is why Russia protected these deep storage depots so fiercely. The loss of so many shells at once puts immediate pressure on Russian logistics and forces the Kremlin to reconsider its distribution strategy. A shortage at the front lines could slow Russia's offensive operations, reduce the intensity of barrages in contested cities, and limit Russia's ability to intimidate Ukrainian troops through constant artillery fire. Another layer to this story is the psychological impact. Russian soldiers on the front rely on a constant flow of shells to maintain pressure on Ukrainian positions. Knowing that millions of shells have been destroyed deep inside Russia undermines confidence in the supply chain. It also signals that no location, no matter how distant, is truly safe from Ukrainian reach. This is where the shock in the Kremlin becomes visible. Reports from Moscow suggest high-level military meetings lasted late into the night. Military advisors demanded explanations from regional commanders, while intelligence officials reportedly warned Putin about the growing threat of long-range Ukrainian drones. Ukrainian officials have remained characteristically tight-lipped, issuing a brief statement saying, "Our capabilities continue to grow. Russia will feel this more often." That statement alone sent Russian commentators into a frenzy, with some calling for immediate escalation and others cautioning that Russia must rethink its defensive posture entirely. Analysts believe Ukraine is testing the limits of Russia's air defense umbrella, finding gaps and exploiting them with precision. One critical aspect here is Russia's dependency on rail systems. Ammunition depots like the one hit serve as key anchors where shells are stored before being shipped by rail to forward bases. Destroying such a depot introduces delays of weeks or even months, as alternatives are either too small or too exposed. This creates a logistical bottleneck that could stall operations across the eastern and southern fronts. The timing of this strike is not accidental either. It coincides with major Ukrainian countermeasures designed to blunt Russia's winter offensive. By targeting the supply chain rather than the battlefield, Ukraine is reshaping the strategic landscape. Instead of confronting Russian firepower head-on, Ukraine is attacking the source of that firepower. It's an asymmetrical approach, but one that could tilt momentum. As for the 400-mile figure, this is unprecedented in the entire conflict. If verified, it marks the single deepest strike Ukraine has ever launched. More importantly, it sets a new strategic reality for Russia. Distance is no longer protection. The heartland is no longer immune, and the psychological blow this delivers to Putin's inner circle cannot be overstated. Russian analysts loyal to the Kremlin expressed disbelief that Ukrainian drones could cross such distances without detection. Some have begun questioning the effectiveness of Russian radar systems, particularly outside priority zones. The destruction of 6.5 million shells also raises questions about Russia's long-term sustainability in this war. Artillery has been the backbone of Russian strategy. Without overwhelming firepower, Russia's advantage diminishes sharply. While Russia can ramp up production, it cannot immediately replace millions of shells, and every day without those reserves makes front-line operations more complicated. This strike is also likely to alarm Russia's allies. Countries supplying Moscow with ammunition may worry about whether their deliveries are secure. After all, if Ukraine can strike so deep, what prevents similar attacks on future shipments? This introduces a new deterrent effect, one that Ukraine might strategically use to pressure Russia's partners. The geopolitical implications are significant as well. Western supporters of Ukraine will likely view this strike as a sign that their investments in Ukrainian innovation and long-range capability are paying off. It may strengthen calls for additional support and encourage allies to provide even more advanced systems. Inside Russia, however, the political fallout could be severe. Putin has long promised the Russian public that the homeland is fully protected. But tonight's events contradict that narrative. Social media platforms inside Russia are already seeing a wave of criticism, questions, and even panic about how Ukrainian drones penetrated so far. The Kremlin may attempt to censor these discussions, but the shock is already spreading. As we continue monitoring this developing story, one thing is clear. This strike is not just an attack on a storage depot. It is a message that Ukraine's reach, resilience, and technological evolution continue to expand. This is a turning point moment, one that could shape the next phase of the war. Russia now faces a difficult recalibration of its defenses, supply lines, and overall strategy, and the world is watching closely. This has been the Military Matrix, bringing you fast, factual, and frontline focused coverage. Stay with us as we track how this groundbreaking strike reshapes the conflict in the days ahead.